folks, we are going to go ahead and go over the Kahoot for Unit C on chemical bonds. So let's see what my name is going to be. Oh, I get to choose my own name, so I guess I'll just be Mr. Roser. All right, here we go. So let's do it. All right, question number one. What happens to electrons in an ionic bond? So remember that in an ionic bond, the electrons are given up by one atom that becomes the cation and taken by the one that becomes the anion, and so they are transferred completely. All right, next question. An ion is an atom. So this is going to be an atom that has a charge, and that means they have either gained or lost electrons. All right. Question three. Ionic bonds form between. Ionic bonds are always going to form between a metal, which becomes a cation, and a nonmetal, which becomes an anion. So metals and nonmetals. All right. A cation is remember, a cation is a positive ion, and so it's going to be positive. And remember that cations are always formed from metal, so a positive metal ion. All right, an anion. So remember anion kind of looks like onion, and onions are bad or negative, and so it's going to be a negative ion, and anions are always formed from nonmetals. All right. What is the name for Al2Br3? All right, well, we have a metal in aluminum and a nonmetal in bromine. And so it's going to be an ionic. And so when we name ionic compounds, we do not use prefixes. And so what we're going to do is we have the name or just the names. And remember the second one, you change the ending to "ide," and so it is aluminum bromide. Always say the metal first. All right, next one. What is the formula for calcium chloride? All right, well, if you look at your periodic table, you will see that calcium forms a +2 cation and chlorine forms a -1 anion. So while the blue here shows the ions, that is not quite right. You need to crisscross, and so the 2 goes with the chlorine and the 1 goes with the calcium. Therefore, you have CaCl2. All right. Covalent bonds form between. So remember that covalent is going to be the right-hand side of the periodic table, and so it is going to be nonmetals with nonmetals. Next up, in covalent bonds, electrons are. So in a covalent bond, remember that you don't have the electrons completely taken away. It's between two nonmetals. And so they're not completely taken away, so they are going to be shared between nonmetals in a covalent bond. All right, next question. If electrons are shared equally, the bond is called what? Well, if they are shared equally, then there is no pulling. So they're kind of equally pulling in a tug of war, if you will, and that's going to be a nonpolar covalent bond. What is the name of N2O3? All right, so nitrogen is nonmetal, oxygen is nonmetal, therefore it is a covalent bond, and we need to use our prefixes, and you need to have prefixes on both of the names because they have 2 and 3, so it's going to be dinitrogen trioxide. Question 12. What is the formula for sulfur difluoride? All right. So for sulfur difluoride, we have this is a covalent compound. Remember, if there is no prefix on the first word, that means that it is 1, and the di on the second word means 2, so it is going to be SF2. What does a dot represent in a Lewis structure? All right, so we have a Lewis structure right here for water, and you see these lines and you see these dots. Remember that each dot is going to represent an valence electron, not just any electron, but a valence electron. What does a line slash bond represent in a Lewis structure? So here we have methane with carbon bonded with hydrogen. And so that is going to represent a pair of electrons, those valence electrons that are shared in a covalent bond. All right. Is this the correct Lewis dot structure for sulfur? All right, so sulfur, if we look on the periodic table, it is in that column 6A, meaning it has 6 valence electrons, and we can see right here that it has 6 valence electrons. So yes, that is the correct Lewis dot structure for sulfur. Next one. Which one is a property of a covalent compound? All right, so covalent compounds are going to have relatively low melting points. So you think of something like water or wax, those are going to melt at relatively low temperatures. Um, they do not have, or therefore they do not have high melting points nor high boiling points, and they do not conduct electricity. All right, last question. Which of the following is a property of an ionic compound? All right, so when it is melted, it is going to conduct electricity. They have high melting points at room temperatures. They are solid, and they tend to be hard and brittle, not soft. So there you go, folks. That is our answers to the questions on the Kahoot. If you have any questions, reach out to your teacher. Have a great day.